free form, and you don't get the best from your supervisor, and they don't get the best from you. We want to be kept off the if anything happens, anything have made a thing work, or that thing's broken, because that thing being broken when you get 5 off. We're also not doing the job we want to be doing. We're supervising you, we enjoy that. But the thing that we need to do is science what you do. But we are living our own right? So when you're putting exciting results, fabulous result, you tell other people about it. So they won't just tell me. I go, that's great, and then yeah, there's nothing else as a consequence of that. So I do expect PhD students to start writing up their own work. So depending on your PhD supervisor, this might be somebody that wants to have corresponding authorship of all the papers that come out from their group. That's not my view. My view is that the PhD student should see all aspects of the scientific writing process. So they prepare the first draft of results, I give them feedback results, we go around that loop maybe half a dozen times if that's what it takes. They get the paper, the student submits it, they are the corresponding author, they then deal with the editorial board that responds to reviewers, they have the oversight and ownership of that whole process. And that's something to discuss with your supervisor, potential supervisor quite early if that's something you feel quite strongly about. Conferences. So whenever the opportunity to present the work at conferences, workshops, meetings, etc. arises, I do expect students to kind of step up and say, I'd like to go to that. Because I want them to be as excited about this work and communicate it as I hope the audience are about hearing it. Okay? So I think it also helps them to develop transferable skills that even if they don't choose to stay in an academic career, can take them, at least help them when they move into industry. There's reporting. So there are formal mandatory reporting mechanisms for the PhD programme in the science faculty, in the physics department. This is quarterly reports. Then at the end of the first year there's a formal viva that is for progression. If you don't meet that kind of basic standard, we normally recommend an MPhil if you get sufficient amount of information and new data to write up. If that doesn't come to pass and you've actually done a fabulous job, that's great. You carry on to go on. There's then the quarterly reports that contain these are short paragraphs. I often go and find we tick a box, that's the more the same place, which is the best thing I can ever say to a student. Please get me more the same. I'm happy with how things are going because it means that they're learning problems. There might also be additional reporting depending on the funding of the PhD. We're going to talk about funding because that's a whole new can of worms. Some funders, if you, for example, have part funding for industry, want to see value for the money. So they might request some type of regular reporting that feeds into their current structure so that everybody's aware of what's happening. So they have some type of investment in new succeeding, and it's understandable that they want something back for that investment. Another possibility is supervision of undergraduate vacation studentships. So I realise that one of the vacation students expects someone, well, I was here, so we're going to dwell on this one too long. Certainly as a postgraduate student, I don't automatically assume that everybody wants to supervise somebody else because that's painful. It's a painful experience if you don't want to do it. Some people do it and they love it and they're really, really good at it, but I see it's optional. So again, if that's something that you would barely make a great thing for doing, it's maybe worth discussing that with you on your supervisor. If it's something you're desperate to do, they can help you to explore funding opportunities to get somebody to work with you. Social media engagement. I see this as entirely optional. Some people love it, some people just want to stay as far away from it as they possibly can, and I understand both points of view. One thing that I do ask my students is that they are mindful of what they're posting because it might come back and bite them in the arse. You don't want to put something out there that then you're looking for a job in a year's time and somebody does a wee bit of a deep dive in your Twitter feed to find out that you like something from a leading political party. And yeah, that might not have been too well on the food. The other reason is that it can reflect badly on the individual, the funder, the university and so on, and I don't want to be suppressing anybody's views, that's not where it comes from, but it's mainly just that the students have thought about what it is they're putting out there in the wild and prepared to defend it if required. I like to see a bit of innovation, as in, I've had a problem and I've kind of tried to solve it on my own, and ownership, but I don't expect that for day one. Because it's normally my daft idea, it'd be great if we could do this thing, and I've managed to convince somebody to give me a bit of money to try and do the thing. And I don't expect the student to be as excited about that thing on day one as me. And it might take them a bit of time, and then by the time we've worked out that thing probably won't work, but actually something that the students alighted on might be a better idea, or another approach to it, or solving a problem. At that point, it stops being my daft idea and it becomes the student's project. That doesn't happen overnight, it doesn't happen in day one, it doesn't happen in month one. It probably happens sometime towards the end of the first year for most students. And I enjoy that. And it's not because I want to kind of move away from a responsibility, that's not what it is. But I like to see that the student feels comfortable with a piece of work and kind of is invested in it and wants it to succeed for them and not for me. The last thing I want is I want them to finish, because that's kind of the whole point. I want them to graduate with a PhD, and that's not for me. It's not about counting the number of PhD students I have, because that's less relevant to me. It's mainly that if somebody starts a PhD, if they want to see it through, if it's the right thing for them, I want them to have a good experience and I want them to complete, graduate and go on and do something else. Often a PhD is just a stepping stone to the place that you want to get to. So if I can be part of that process and help you through it, and that's everything from training you in some basic like microscopy through to proofreading the thesis for the third time, that's okay. That's kind of my job, is to try and advise you and guide you and get you through the other side of it. So there is nothing I like more than when a student just gets that final soft bound copy of their thesis after the viva, full of corrections, delighted. All they need to do is just make a few revisions, and then you can hopefully register and graduate and go on to something a lot more exciting than I'm really happy for. So I realise that's a wee bit of a blistering tour of what I expect. It's probably not comprehensive. There's one other thing that I would probably add, and that's patience. Research is painful. Lots of things are not going to work. But it's not just the research, I think it's also with your supervisor, because we get things wrong. We don't always remember the thing that you told us 3 weeks ago, because in that 3 weeks, 5,000 other things have happened, right? So I would like to finish with saying, please be patient with us. We're just human, we're not perfect, but we are prepared to work with you to try and get the best outcome for you. So with that, I'm going to finish up. I'm happy to take any questions now, later, whatever, I'll be around. Thank you. Here's a bit back.
No, it's alright, I'll be from time to time.
Hello everyone. So I am Megan, I'm a student who's just been asked for traumatised by our supervisor, and I'm basically just here to plug the Women in Strathclyde Physics Society Association, not society. We're not affiliated yet, but we're working on it, because we basically come together to support as a support group for female students and the Department of Physics, as it is quite a minority. I don't know if I can have numbers. So we are formed from all the way from undergraduate up until senior academics. We come together occasionally for things such as sitting in the staff room with baked goods from everyone to going out on events and having society or kind of talks going on as well. So one of the things that we did throughout my undergraduate, but it's been a while since I've done it, was do a series of posters which were Meet a Whisper. So someone who volunteered, I was on one of them one time, and we highlighted the achievements basically of women in the department and put them up. We have a closed Facebook page as well for those who want to keep in contact with each other, and we have a Twitter page which is kind of on all of the slides there if you want it, as well as events throughout the year. Over the pandemic we haven't been as frequent, but we're about to start some back up again, but I'll talk about that in a second. One of the kind of bigger events that we did way back in the day was the Whisper Inspire Day, where school pupils visited some of the labs at Strathclyde, they had some talks, and it's really just kind of, try and get us into physics, because it is something that is, for some reason, quite a stumbling block in higher education, or lower education. As I mentioned, we've done the coffee and bake afternoons, we've done quizzes. I think we did a quiz a couple of years ago, online socials through the pandemic when possible, but also have done things such as outings to the Mitchell Library, which was for a Women in Science exhibition, and we hope to start up things like this again very soon with some funding that we should be getting. One of our previous members as well also won the 2020 Student of the Year Awards, which was Zoe Davidson, and she is unfortunately no longer in the department, but yeah, hopefully we can get more people from the department doing things like this again. So we also have links to STEM Equals, EDI and Physics, and other women in physics groups such as the one in Glasgow, and basically just, we can keep an eye on our Twitter, because we should be getting affiliated with Union soon and having our own welcome event, such as something similar to this. So yeah, that's the Women in Physics presentation, and I'll hand over to the Physics Society.
Hi, I'm Molly. I'm a fifth year in Christian Society in undergrad, but I'm part of the Physics Society now here, and we just want to talk a little bit about us. So we are trying to create a kind of student community within physics, not just in terms of like academically supporting each other, but also in terms of like just general well-being. It's nice to have other people to get involved with. We're not just for undergrads, we're also open for postgrad students in not just physics, like if you have any interest in physics or things like that. Very welcome to come join us. We host different socials and stuff throughout the year. Yeah, so that's a picture from our latest social. We have like socials every 2 weeks. We just go out, do fun stuff. We've got pub quizzes coming up. Got a supper all starting soon with the Glasgow Uni Society. So we can meet some other times there. We also do a lot of industry talks and guest lectures, which we should hopefully get in soon. Also, if anyone ever wanted a chance to like just talk about their research or just wanted a chance to practice painting, you're more than welcome. Email us, we'd love to have you, it'd be great. Yeah, we also do drop-in sessions as led by students, so we mainly help undergrads. But if you'd ever like to help us, again, send us an email, we'd love to have your help. We have our Twitter, Instagram and Facebook there. We do a lot of socials online as well as some of the socials that we're doing in person there. We have a Discord too, so we QR codes, we do our wellbeing resources and stuff up there, which is exciting, we can talk to. Yeah, we also got, if you ever want to like talk to Physics Society or very open to speaking suggestions, anything like that, please chat us. But yeah, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, happy to answer them. But thank you.
So next speaker is Ralph, who's going to talk about some journal tips for the PhD.
Oh, right. Okay, wow. That's, again, I guess no one has really mentioned yet, the biggest crowd I have in a long time for any talk that's in person. It's fantastic to be back at something like this. Gabe has mentioned already a lot of things, so I'll try to not bore you too much with the same things, but when it was pitched, I was like, okay, here's something that is more from a student's perspective of having finished a PhD. What is it I wanted to maybe do differently, or what did I like to know at the start? It's a lot back as well for me, but hopefully there's a couple of tips in there for all of you as well. the main thing, start to finish, we've heard already about the please finish, that's also from a supervisor, but also from a student's perspective. You do want to finish, that's why you start this whole journey. And to put another cliche in there, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah, it's 3 years, 4 years, 3.5, 4 years, however long your funding is. It's a long time, but it passes really quickly. Just the patience part is really in there as well. A couple of things to make sure from the start. You should know how long your funding is to be funding. It really is essential that you know, okay, I have 3 years of funding, 3.5, 4, that's great. Take 6 months away from that, because that's where usually you should start writing your thesis. Ideally at a point you want to be finished with all your lab work, if you have experimental work or theoretical work as well. You want to be finished with your main thing and then just concentrate on that. It never really happens, but just try to aim for that one. It also is a bit that your focus might shift slightly through the years. At first year you do a lot more training on all the equipment, all the techniques, everything there. It might shift more towards the more independent part. I sometimes feel a little bit of it should all still go throughout your career and throughout your full 3-4 years as well. But it's just something, focus will shift, so just be prepared for that. Especially enjoy looking in multiple directions in year 1. So your first year is really where you do a lot of learning techniques, kind of starting with the project, reading up on everything. And it's really essential to not just go narrow from the here's my project descriptor, I stay roughly with that or fully with that. Just read beyond it. Just have a look, is there something else exciting there, which feeds into what Gail has said as well, with a bit of, you take ownership of something there. And it's really therefore essential to just really look at that. Adapt to regular work hours, yeah, that's the same thing, turn up. It's not an undergraduate degree again where you start at 11 and finish at 3 and might do something like this here. It's also not a workplace where you're in from 9 to 5 and that's it. It will vary, but just be prepared for that. And writing always takes longer than you think. Always, no matter what you write on. Engage in the research community is another thing I feel being prepared for if you do this PhD journey. Make sure to get to know the people in your lab. Before that, great, but also during your PhD. Because they're your support network, at least knowing what you're doing. They're the closest who know what you actually do in your work, and therefore there's a lot of help there. Try and see what else goes on in the department, faculty and beyond. Yeah, we're here, it's already kind of a good start for that. I have a bit here about joining professional societies. You don't have to, but it's really kind of a recommendation, I would say, in a way that a lot of them don't have much high membership fees, but their networks, the freebies and their interaction really can help. So on a personal note, I've definitely benefited a lot from that. Being involved in the society that's hosting this as well in school, the Optical Society, or no, Optica. I've met a lot of people through that throughout my PhD who kind of continue to be an extra network and support network, so it really helps. Attend free webinars, any of these things, especially since the pandemic, there's a lot of stuff out there. Too much to really look at, and all these societies have something that probably will fit to all of you. But picking just some of them, even if you have it on in the background, there might be really interesting things happening there. When we move from the initial bit to the next part, if you're a starting PhD student, the first thing always is, well, the literature review, background reading, it's great. From the start, use a good reference manager. Organize the references into really categories and folds and everything. It might sound simple, but it will help you all the way along. There's often enough where I look back at some of the bits and say, where have I put that? Start from the start, the first things to read, put them down. Anything you open and read, you'll come back to a lot of things where you think, oh, I've seen that paper. Oh, I forgot to download it and I forgot where it was, I forgot where it is. Just make sure you use that properly from the start. Proper notes when reading, it might sound simple as well, but do take the time for that. It really helps you. And I know we're now moving a bit away from the all online and more on campus and in person and lab books. If you use an electronic one, the advantage really is just grab from papers that you've read, just the headline figure with a link to it. This is the paper I have it from. It helps you when you go back to your stuff later on to find the things, because it's the bit that you find, oh yeah, that's the nice thing of it. Throughout the PhD, and actually beyond as well, try to keep an hour a week for reading. It might sound simple, but if your head is in the lab, you have to, well, either deadlines or anything might be different, but if you do your regular things, like it's exciting in the lab, it's great. You do your kind of trying to build something, trying to research something, but make sure you block something for reading in the background. It really helps you all the way through. Twitter as well, as someone mentioned, not just to be on it, but also there's a lot of things out there. In some fields, there's a lot of information as well that you can get from that. I go with lab etiquette, that's maybe a weird word for it, but it's the main thing, just try to be engaged. Ask people. Ask for help, ask for people to help us. Protocols, equipment, techniques, just chat to the people about that are in the same group, in the same labs. They might have done the same thing that you've gone through and already have solved a certain part of it. But speak to them, that's the only way to realize what's happening. Keep a proper lab book. I know I sound like a supervisor in that, but as well, even as a student, it really helps when you're at the end of your PhD. So this is from the start, try to really write everything down that you need. And specifically the thing where you think, I always use that condition, I don't write it down, there you go. It always comes up, but at the end there's the one thing you feel, oh yeah, I've kept that the same, and then 3 years later you're using a completely different set of conditions for whatever you're simulating or kind of research-wise, and you forgot what it was at the start. That's the most painful thing, to really everything down. Have fun. Research is fun, and that's where I think Gail's part comes rightly in with a bit of, we would like to do this research job more than the admin thing, that's why we went into this. You have that opportunity. You're still at the stage where you're doing the exciting research, so it really is great. And yeah, let supervisors or lab managers know when something is either empty, use the last thing, or something is going to run out. Not just for the others, but also for you, because if everyone in your group does that, you're not going to be the one who opens the drawer and realizes, oh man, everything is gone and my experiment therefore has to wait for 3 days until something comes in. Or 3 weeks with Brexit, I don't know what whatever was there. Oh, did I mention that word? Sorry. Writing data analysis, yeah. Writing is something that comes through it as well. And it might not be the exciting thing, but right from the start and throughout. You have to do literature reviews usually after 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is. Start earlier than that and continue with writing. And that is papers, but there's also little other things. Little reviews, many things, just to be in the habit of writing. It will help you so much at the very end. One thing that I've only kind of recently more started is make little storyboards or paper plans also from the start. Even so your experiment might not go into a paper or anything, it helps you focus things of what do you need for it. What part of that research is still need to be done? What part of your conditions do you still need to kind of characterize, either some basics or whatever it is, just to get everything there. So it really helps. Well, might not have everyone, but it helps visualize certain things. Analyze things when you got it, not a year later. It might sound simple, but yes, it does help, because otherwise you're getting started to write your thesis and you're in the middle of it and realize, oh, I haven't analyzed that data, but I did that 6 months ago, so I don't quite know what I did anymore, and you have to redo it, so not great. And my one thing for that as well is, if you have data and analyze it, prepare it in what I call publishable format. Make it look good already, because it means that you don't have to come back to it and again find all the little things that might be there. You have it directly, you can punt it wherever you want, and also in any publication, or more importantly, do a thesis. The dreaded thing. Going to conferences, we all like to present our data, but also taking the opportunity to go somewhere. The onus is on you as well to keep an eye out for, are there any interesting conferences coming up? Where are they? When are the deadlines? Because your supervisor might kind of have an idea of some of them, but they don't know always when the deadlines are, and might be too busy sometimes to realize, oh, we should prepare this early. So make sure you know that early and well in advance, so you can, if you want to go, prepare something for it to present there, but also chat to your supervisor early about it. And that's also being aware of travel grants and bursaries. So maybe we come into societies again. If you're a member of certain societies, they have travel grants to go to conferences. The university, if you don't have direct funding that has already a travel budget, has also grants to travel to conferences. So make sure to chat to your supervisors about it. There is things out there for that. And speak early, because yeah, you need to prepare something to attend and also to present. So don't come a week before the deadline, that usually doesn't happen. Practice. Any presentation, I would say at least twice before giving them, mostly because of timing, but also just getting used to it. It might sound simple, but please do that, because it's also you representing yourself, but your group and everyone else. It's more, gives you more confidence and you're okay with presenting. And ask questions. If you go to conferences, it doesn't need to be after a talk directly, but just if there's something interesting, just chat to the people in a coffee break, anything else. Everyone is happy to, if someone goes up to them and say like, I really like this, I like what you do, can you explain this a bit more? Most people are really happy to talk about science with you, so do that. And I think Second to last, the dreaded thesis. It might sound far away if you're a first year student, but it'll come quicker than you want. Remember the thing 6 months before? Yeah, make really sure to just try to plan it at least. It'll never go to plan, but try at least to save that time for it. You will have a thesis structure before anyway. Usually supervisors expect that at the end of your second year to have a structure what your thesis should look like, which just gives you a bit more idea of what will you need to put in there, so what do you need to do in results-wise, experiment-wise. Remember writing early? Yeah, that's again writing. Tell a story. Your PhD thesis, at the end of it, is not all the experiments you've done throughout your PhD. It is about a story of some new knowledge that you've generated. And in general, everything that's in there is usually only about 80% of what you've done, or less, in your PhD unit. So I think in my thesis there was work I've done in the first year, which even went to the journal, and it never even saw the light of the day in the thesis at all. Just be prepared for that. It's not about everything that fits in, but what fits your story. You don't have to write to sequentially, write what you feel more comfortable with, because writing is really the bit that's the hardest, and if you can get into a habit of writing regularly and just getting it done, whatever it is, every page is a good page. Until your supervisor comes back with lots of bread, but that's different. And even that helps. And yeah, there's a lot of other PhD students in the same situation as you. You're not alone in this. When you speak with them, there's always others who are writing up as well. You all go through a very similar thing there, and just sometimes having this extra bit of a chat over coffee with someone just hopefully helps you also see, hold on, it is possible, but we all have sometimes writer's block where we can't write for a week or anything. It happens. Chat to people, it really helps. And final thought from my side, enjoy it. It really is great. It gets you to conferences, group outings, everything, Christmas lunches, Christmas outings, lots of things. But it is a nice time, hopefully, but make the most of it and try to be prepared to work with a little bit of organization into it, and then I'm sure you have a good time. And with that, I think that's it for my section.
Thank you, Ralph, very much. This was an excellent talk. And it's also an excellent segue to what I want to show you in my talk. So we are a bit tight on schedule. So please feel free to stay and then ask any question you might have to our presenters. And I'll try to be sensibly quick. Where is it? Here. No. Okay. I see. Okay. It wasn't on the screen. Great. So nice to see so many people here. Hello, my name is Matej, and I'm a third year PhD student and also a chair of SCOPE. You probably have heard before a few times today. And I wanted to give a talk on something that would be practically useful. And Gail and Ralph have given excellent talks, and also they have given some really nice segues into what I want to talk about. Is the tools of the trade to make your PhD life more efficient or more easy. As Gail might have mentioned, PhD in the end is work with knowledge. So what we have to do is we have to obtain knowledge, which means you read all papers, you read the previous works, you read the state of the art. Then you create knowledge. So basically, you perform experiments, you do your own research. And afterwards, you have to maintain the knowledge. So you have to analyze the result, hopefully soon after you take them, and ideally, show those to the world. Show what have you done. Publish those. So I think no matter what is your field of doing a PhD, in the end, you are a knowledge worker. So knowledge is power. And there are tools that can make your life easier and more efficient. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of pen and paper, but I think there's some software which can really help you to make your PhD life more efficient. So I'm a bit picky about my software. So what I like to have in my software is for the software to be flexible, ideally open source or more like data privacy focused, because in the end, the data you take is yours. It doesn't belong to Facebook or anybody, so you should be able to keep it. And also, I like software that preserves data in a way that's future-proof. So, proprietary formats that are like only readable by a single program, it works like that. So you want formats that can just, if you lose the program, you open them 5 years later, you want to be able to read them. And I have picked a few tools I use for you, which hopefully will be useful. You might know some of them. I don't think you will know all of them, so it will be something new for everybody. And those are Zotero, or a reference manager, which was mentioned by Ralph. Then for maintaining knowledge, I have Notion and graph-based knowledge systems. And as a small addition, also software for backups, because backups are boring, but they can save your life. So, Zotero, essential thing if you want to do research, because you do research, which means you build on the shoulders of people who have been there before you. And everybody who uses a piece of knowledge that was published by somebody, you need to acknowledge what have you done, whom have you referenced, who made the knowledge. I think Zotero is the best choice of all the different softwares. Why? Because it's open source and privacy focused. Then it works on basically all the platforms. It doesn't matter if you use Windows, if you use Mac. There's an iOS client now as well. You can sync your papers and your data into cloud. And you can use cloud solution by Zotero, which is paid. But you can also use your own solution, such as Dropbox or OneDrive, to store your papers. So you can kind of do it in a hybrid way, where you store data on Zotero servers, but store the actual papers, which can be chunky, on a large cloud space. It works very well with Word and with Tech. I recommend Tech, but it's everybody's choice. And it also supports extensions. So not only you have Zotero itself, you can extend its functionality. And there are some alternatives. I guess quite a few people are using Mendeley, which is not bad. My problem with Mendeley is that it is now developed by Elsevier, which is one of the publishers. And I don't want to say that Elsevier is evil, but they kinda are. And like, for example, getting your database out of Mendeley, it's also fun. Recommend it if you are bored and want to spend like 2 days sorting this out. It's a nightmare. So that's why I stress that these solutions should preserve your data in a way that's accessible from outside. Mendeley doesn't do it. But it's a nice software, it is a nice user interface, so you can try it, but I think Zotero is a better choice. Then some extensions. I will put the slides on Scope webpage, so you don't have to remember things. You can check the webpage and download those. But definitely, if you're going to write in LaTeX, get better BibTeX, because it gives you the functionality to refer to papers by citations, which is a standard practice in LaTeX. Also get Zotfile, because it enables you to put your papers into the cloud-based solution, not on Zotero servers. So you save some money, you don't have to pay them. And it's fine. Yes, so that was the references. And now, actual note-taking. And there's Evernote, it's been around for quite some time. Some people love iOS notes, just a simple note. I like more complex solution, which can be flexible, and you can make them work in the way you want. And Notion is one of these solutions. So Notion is an all-in-one workspace for preserving information, knowledge. It's extremely flexible to the point that it's almost too flexible. So in the beginning, you might be lost. You might be thinking like, how do I do this blank screen? But if you spend some time to configure things in the way you want, it can be extremely useful. Basically, in Notion, there are like functional blocks. So a block can be a web page, a paragraph of text, YouTube video, embedded web page, anything. You can kind of sort this out in a system that suits you. It also has very powerful databases. I don't want to go into many details because it's time, but they are very good. It's super easy to do collaborative efforts in Notion. So, for example, the last paper I have written with my colleague, we have actually done it in Notion and then explored it to LaTeX. It worked quite well. You can put in files, PDFs, photos, pictures, anything. You can embed web pages. You can do lots of stuff. It works in a browser, and it has fairly decent mobile app. So even if you need to make notes on the go, the app is pretty good. As I mentioned, the learning curve can be a bit steep, and this is not an open source solution, so I don't pay for it, and I use it a lot. So I guess if you want to use it more than me, you probably hit some kind of limitation for the free accounts. So it's not completely free, but basically it is. If it sounds interesting, check Notion tutorials on YouTube to get a feel of what this thing can do. And it can do a lot. However, the best thing I want to show you today is none of the things I showed previously, but what is called like graph-based knowledge systems or digital brains. And the main solution, the main difference is that typically in all the let's say older systems for keeping notes, you have a hierarchy. So you have what you can see on the right hand side. Like, you structure things like groups, subgroups, 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 subgroups. However, this is not exactly how the brain works. Like the brain doesn't have hierarchy. The brain just connects things together. And people are thinking like, oh, why don't we just build a software that does the same thing? No hierarchy, just link things together in a way that's similar to what is shown here at the bottom. And I guess you all know Wikipedia. This is exactly the way Wikipedia is structured. Wikipedia doesn't have hierarchy. It just has pages that always link together and just form like this mesh of information. And this approach has been recently popularized by software called Roam. However, Roam is insanely expensive, so skip on it. It costs like $15 a month, which I think is quite a lot. There are a few alternatives which do exactly the same job, can be even better. Notably, it's Obsidian, which is exactly the same thing, and two new contenders in the space of graph-based data systems, which are Athens and Logseq. And Logseq is something I will talk about to you in this final part of my presentation. So, Logseq is open source, and it stores data locally. So basically, you have a folder which stores all of your files in plain text. So there's no problems with accessing your data. It's right there, readable by any kind of text editor. It's brilliant. It's a new software. It's in beta, but they iterate very fast. So basically, every week there's a new release, a new function. It's excellent. Why I'm saying this is that keep in mind that because it's a beta, you might lose data. It can happen because it's not polished. It's not yet fully functional. I used it a lot and I never lost it. But keep in mind this can happen. How this works is that basically you have a page. You have pages and blocks. Page contains blocks. If you want to make a new web page, you literally create a link in this format, which is, I think, standard for Wikipedia as well. And that's it. You just link to the page. If it exists, it links to it. If it doesn't, it just creates like an entry in the namespace. And you can refer to this from any document in your database. And it creates backlinks. So you can see from page name that this was linked to the source page. In the same way, you can also reference not whole pages, but just the blocks. So I also use it for like a daily to-do list, because it also supports to-do lists. And what we can see here is that I have a node like here. I want to read the paper by Jumper, which is the page, and add it to my knowledge base. And once I click away, these will work as links to the actual paper and to what I call my knowledge base, where I store all my information. It also creates a daily clear page. So every time you open it on a new day, there's going to be a daily page. You can write anything you want. You can make a diary, journal, to-do list, anything you want. Again, you can access all the previous days. So it's, again, very flexible. It's up to you to find how you want to work with it. And it has quite a few event functions, which I will talk about later if somebody asks me. And then, the holy grail of everything, you can link Logseq with Zotero. So basically what you can have is Zotero database of all the papers you have. You can link them together and refer to each of the paper with a page name. And basically what you create like this is your own digital brain. And what you see here is my digital brain. This is actually my database. You can see how all the different pages and things link together. So, for example, this big book, because I have all the articles, hashtag with article, all the dots connected here are articles, now it's surrounded in this cluster. So, I think this is the most powerful way how to do your literature review, because you just write things, reference, and then you end up with a cluster of information. You basically connect the dots yourself. The new version of Logseq supports PDF annotation, so you just throw in a PDF of the paper. You highlight things, and the reference to the highlights as blocks. I haven't used it yet, it's a new function, but it sounds very, very powerful. So, then I will be boring in my last slide. few remarks which I will again follow on what Ralph mentioned. Timestamp everything. Make sure that your data are labeled with dates. I think this is very helpful. Write down everything, because the obvious detail you think that you will remember, you will not. Never. Doesn't work. And then make sure to have backups. And I know backing up is a very, very boring thing, but I have witnessed situation that a backup which has saved a life. So I recommend this small utility, which is called free passing. You can configure it in a way that anytime you want, just press a button and it backups all the data you might have in a folder to, let's say, an external drive. If it checks what is updated, it only updates the new things. So if there's some changes, it puts them there. Boring, but very, very useful. And I think I've been speaking too long. So in summary, use the software to make your life easier and to connect the dots. Have Zotero, pick your choice in Notion or Noxy, and make backups. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions later during the video. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mati. And we're now heading towards the last two presentations of our event, and then we can open it up to the social. Also realized there are also some goodie bags back in back, if you want to grab them. So, lastly, what we would want to say is get involved. Join us. We're always looking out. Obviously, for the next year, we would want volunteers to come in to join our societies. You can join any society based on whatever your preferences are, whatever your user groups are. And as Ralph pointed out, it's always nice because you get so many benefits. So you get something called a distinguished lecture program with an IEEE, where you can invite, I think they started doing it again, where you can invite a lecturer if they're in your vicinity, and the IEEE pays for it, for their travel, for their accommodation. They can come in and give a lecture that you think somebody you want to hear. You get to network in your field, you get to go to technical talks, you also get to go to conferences, and sometimes they're funded. So you can put in a paper if you're from a society, and if you win the competition, you can actually get completely funded by the whole, basically all of your conferences get funded by IEEE. And obviously outreach, if you're interested in that, IEEE does a lot of, IEEE and World Scope does a lot of outreach as well. Other benefits is we apply for funding to host events, just like these. So this is just the first event for this academic year. We'll be hosting a lot of other events. You can apply for funding. There's a lot of money that comes in. You can actually do it on a bigger scale if you can justify your event, and it's always very good to try and get to those points and get to organize those events so you get develop skills on the way as well. You also, as I said, funded visits to conferences. If you join society, if you're one of the members, there are also certain, for Photonics Society, you can say there was an international photonics conference, and you can represent your own student branch, and if you want to go there, and that gets funded as well. Also, you have to put in the paper, but it does get funded. And most importantly, you have got to this point, you get PGR credits. So if you are a volunteer, you can actually apply for PGR credits, and that's a very, very important thing for you to actually finish the PhD. And obviously, the hardest thing, I suppose, with your PhD is the fact that your PhD is quite hard as well. Before we are going to introduce our societies now, just to let you know, I said something earlier about Photonics Society not being a Photonics Society, and then Mathieu mentioned Scope briefly. So just to reveal what we are, is we're actually Scope. We're not Photonics Society anymore. We actually merged into this group called the Strategic Institute Community for Optics, Physics and Engineering, and they are not just associated with IEEE, they're associated with Optica, which was OSA earlier on, SPIE, and Young Minds. And we've got a social media presence. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. We upload most of our events now on YouTube. And this is actually getting live streamed as we speak. So it's just the slides and the speakers who basically are getting live streamed. So over there. Or you can go to our website. There's also a mailing list you can join. We will put out QR codes for the mailing list after the event, so you can scan it, join our mailing list, get updated to all the events that we're doing. And some of the events that we've organized in the past, as I said earlier on, was the academia, the MSc PhD was next. That was a career event of what you want to do after your career. And we did all the different pathways. The video of it is available on YouTube. We did the Glasgow. Again, as I mentioned earlier, that was the event that we did where we organized the event across. So we had University of Glasgow, University of Edinburgh, University of St Andrews from Scotland, and then 4 of the universities in Brazil collaborating with us on this event. And we did, earlier on this year, we did a Scope Out PhD, which was an Ask Me Anything event, where you could just come in if you had any doubts about PhDs or anything, you could just ask anything that you wanted from the speakers, and many more. There's a list of events that we are planning, that we've done in the past, and you can get access to all that if you join us. Or you can help us organize that if you join the committee. So, all I can say is get involved, send us a message, or find us during the event, you can have a chat with us. There will be a social after this, and this place is booked for 10 p.m., until 10 p.m., so you can hang around, have a bit more beers. It's a Friday night, so and I will now hand over the mic to Kathleen from Women Present Engineering.
Hi, my name is Kathleen. I'm in the PEDIC group in electronic and electrical engineering. And yeah, just a couple really short slides about our group. Pretty close, I guess, to the Women in Physics group. I've actually gone to some of their events in the past too, but yeah, so it's it consists of bi-weekly meetings on Zoom at the moment, but we're actually going to start doing some in-person events as well, and it's just a way to make friends and support each other and talk about how hard PhDs are and all the good stuff like that. Some of our past events, we did mental health in higher education, the path after a PhD, academia and parenting, and we're really excited because we have this interdisciplinary series of events coming up in November and early December, and it's all about the ethics and values of being an engineer and a scientist. So for the first one, it's going to be about the climate crisis. We're actually going to have an ethicist, a professional ethicist, who works in technology and ethics, and he's going to talk about the idea of value-sensitive design and how we as engineers can interrogate our own values, figure out what our values are, and then how to use that in the context of the climate crisis. Then we have an intersectionality and inclusivity in STEM. So having a bunch of different people who do work on inclusion for various groups, neurodiversity, race, gender, LGBTQ folks, and basically how do we create a really inclusive place in the STEM community, rather than just having check marks of EBI for a lot of that stuff. And then international projects, we're going to have folks from different countries that we're going to talk about how can we have ethical projects when we're working with groups from different countries, and maybe there are histories of not so pleasant things in the past, and how we can do that, and for ourselves, I'm American, and most of you are probably from the UK, or from Europe, and so how can we interrogate those feelings in ourselves of oh, I want to go to Africa and help them build solar panels. It's well, why don't you build solar panels here? That kind of question. And then finally, we're going to have a keynote talk from Don O'Reilly, who's an amazing engineer, also from America, who's done a lot of work putting together a curriculum at Smith College, which is in Massachusetts. It's a fully, it's a women's college, and she's going to talk about like what does it mean to be a feminist engineer. And I'd just like to say, any and all of you are all welcome to these events. You know, if anybody is ever interested in becoming a supervisor, or you are a supervisor, anything like, you know, the inclusion event, probably be really, really interesting. A lot of us I know work on projects that are connected to the climate crisis, wind farms, etc. So, yeah, keep an eye out for those. And sign it to women. All right.
And now we have Roberto from the Oceanic Engineering Society. Hi.
Yes, hi. Yeah, so hi everyone, and thank you for being here. Thank you to the organizer and for the pizza as well. It was quite good, yeah. A bit oily as my white shirt, so maybe the best idea to use it tonight. Anyway, I'll be very brief. I think I'm the last one speaking, so it won't take long. I'm from the Department of Naval Architecture, Ocean and Marine Engineering. And is there anybody from there? No? Oh yeah, hi. So if you have friends from that department, please let them know that there's people behind the IEEE OES, and I just became the chair, so just get in touch with us if you know them. In the last years, as probably you know, IEEE has done a lot, and so has done our society. We've organized great events with major stakeholders, such as BAE Systems, also Amazon, and yeah, plenty of things, despite being the pandemic and all the events were moved online. But before that, we also have peace events, a lot of opportunities, and yeah, as Ultras says, lots of money coming to IEEE, and great opportunities. I know people from our society who've been flying to San Diego from here, just going to attend conferences, presenting. For myself, I've done an internship for a website magazine organized by IEEE, and yeah, just be prepared and look out for opportunities. That's my suggestion. Join the IEEE, all the societies under the umbrella that we have here. So yeah, thank you very much. Not much to say.
Thanks, Roberto. We just have the final talk is from Panos, who is the student chapter advisor for Power Electronics Society, and we also have Susan, who is the chair of the Power Electronics Society at the moment.
Hi everyone, I'm Panos Papalopoulos. That's Panagiotis is the full version, but Panos is the short version of my name. So I am a lecturer in the Department of Electronics and Electrical Engineering. So I'll try not to bore you. I'll try to speak very briefly about the Power and Energy Society. It's one of the societies of IEEE. I'm now what is called the past chair. So I used to chair the UK and Ireland committee. So in the past couple of years, so for the next couple of years, I'm going to go over faster. Yeah, okay, so we're going through the slides then. So I think you got the idea of what IEEE is more or less, but just to get an understanding that this is a big organization, an international one, it has around 400,000 members or so worldwide, and there are a lot of societies. Power and Energy Society, which I'm kind of like related because of my research, is just one of those. So you have like Atomic Society, you have Oceanic, or you have Power Electronics, Industrial Applications. They're actually different societies. A lot of them are kind of very close and overlapping, but the technical interests are slightly different. So depending on what kind of area your PhD is on, you might be interested in a particular society. And so this is just the scale of things. So kind of IEEE, apart from the technical societies, you have also the local or geographic arrangements. So you have different regions, which are kind of like shown here more or less. We belong to Region 8, which is Africa, Europe, Middle East, and you have particular chapters as well, or sections as they are called. It's quite confusing. I can explain it over the beer better, so if anyone is more interested in that, I'll give you more details. But basically, we are all under the UK and Ireland section. That's the bottom line here. Both countries belong to the same section. What can you do in terms of IEEE in general? All societies more or less have similar activities or similar opportunities. Power and Energy is one of them, as I said before. So you can you have conferences, so most of the kind of flagship conferences in electronic and electrical engineering are sponsored to some extent by IEEE, but obviously you have Syngrem as well, which is a big organization in terms of power and energy also. And you also have IEEE, which is more local here in the UK, international organization though. And you get the journals and the magazines, so a lot of you will be reading, so the research you will be doing is kind of sponsored by these kind of societies. Obviously, you can get those through the university library anyway. Another interesting thing that PES has is called the Research Center, which is effectively, other societies, I'm pretty sure they might have similar things, but this has been relatively, in the last 5 years, introduced in IEEE, and I found that quite useful. So all webinars, reports, recorded presentations, and so on are kind of going into a website, basically, and you can access them. It's quite good material there, I think. So the Distinguished Lecturers Program, I think Utkarsh has probably mentioned about that, so I'll just skip it over, so you can basically invite distinguished lecturers from all over the world. That's that. And you have several technical talks and activities and technical visits also that you can organize. You can partially get sponsored by IEEE also, so probably also the members of the IEEE student branch in general speak to the chapters, speak to the technical societies, and they can give you funding to do things that you have in mind. So even if it falls outside of the standard kind of activities, if you have a good idea, you can always approach them and say, well, we want to do that event, or invite XYZ speaker. They would be happy to help you with this. Other stuff that we are doing is poster competitions and presentations, which is actually quite nice. It has a social aspect as well, and kind of best poster gets an award as well, so that's a quite nice activity. And there are also events about how to publish, how to write, how to do research, and so on. Affiliation groups, you've already heard about women in engineering. There are other similar young professionals and so on, but I would say women in engineering is probably one of the most active, especially in UK and Ireland. So these are just the PES technical subjects, but you don't need those at that moment. And some photos from past events that we organized. Some of them are here in Strathclyde, so you will probably see at top right the photos from Royal College when we used to have in-person events in 2019 or 18, I'm not entirely sure. And we've hosted a number of people here, and I think it would be a nice opportunity to start doing that again. Similarly, this is an example of a small conference that is organized by IEEE, PES, UK and Ireland. So it's organized by Manchester. It started as a kind of a small event, and then it grew and it became a yearly thing, and it's quite nice because it brings together people from, well, UK, sometimes international people as well, but mostly it's UK. These are some women in engineering also events. There is apart from the women in engineering, there is also women in power. It gets even more confusing than that, but they are all the organizations are kind of related with each other, but they are also particular, they have different committees also. And technical visits. I think in Strathclyde we used to do a visit in Whiteley at some point, the wind farm. There were some visits in the Siemens factory, some visits in a hydropower plant, and so on. So all these things again are you can get them sponsored basically by IEEE. Websites as well. You probably have seen this if you have been to the event organized by the IEEE Strathclyde branch. Similarly, this is an example from Manchester. And these are some links that might be useful, and maybe something to know, interesting to know is that if you are a student, the first year of the PS membership is also free. So if you join IEEE, then the PS membership is free. What's up? So
Hi, I'll be really short. I'm Susan. I am not a lecturer. I am a PhD student. I prefer to think of it as a second childhood than a midlife crisis. I am slightly surprised to find myself the chair of the student chapter of Power and Engineering Society. Panos has given a great overview of what it is. So any of you whose research interests are basically electrical power systems or electrical and something else energy systems from national scale to small scale, this is one of several institutions you might think about joining. I think it's worth the 20 quid extra on IEEE. You know, you just do get to find out about quite a lot of things. We have had some interesting events. So if you're interested, come and find either myself or Panos and we'll talk more about it. Right, I will let you get to the beer now.
Thank you, Susan, Panos, and thank you all the speakers who turned up, and thank you everyone for turning up here.